What I think is important for people to realize is that SAP is not writing its ERP for any one specific customer. We're writing a capability that works equally well in an airline, in a rail, operator, a oil and gas company, a hospital. We deliver this base functionality, but then the next trick is to finish it out to fit your business.
Absolutely. And that's where when SAP is building, here's a simplified picture where SAP is building 80% of what the market needs and leaving the other 20% up to customers and partners. There's this kind of 80 to 95% that is typically you're not the first company to run into this gap. It's available, it's out there. And this is from why we do what we do.
Hey, Sean, how are you? Bob Sakalas with SAP.
Doing amazing, Bob. Thanks for getting together. This looks like fun. Key ideas and news update.
Yeah, that's the idea. My goal is to just share, BTP is changing so fast. And when I was talking to you the other day, I realized you've got some amazing ideas around all the things that are happening with BTP. So this is going to be kind of a smash together of two ideas just because we talked a few days ago. So hopefully the audience finds this helpful. That's the whole idea here, but I think it will be.
Yeah, it is moving so fast, and there's a lot of people that think they know what it is, and they really just have one tiny corner of it or a little slice of it, or it's like that picture where somebody's touching the elephant blindfolded, and they're like, it's a pillar, and somebody says, oh, it's a trunk. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, let me just start with a really quick level set for just a couple of seconds, right? I think that's a great place to go. But before I do that, I always have this slide pop up, which is sometimes we talk about the future. And the future can always change until it becomes generally available. That's kind of what that says. So BTP, what is it really? I think it comes down to these few words. It's a platform that is designed specifically for working with SAP applications and data. But more importantly, it connects SAP to all the other applications you have in enterprise. So if you want to maximize the value of everything that you have, BTP is the way to do that. Specifically, there's about 100 different matched services. You can see these at the SAP Discovery Center. That's the short address to get there. And what makes SAP's approach different than everybody else, the Azures, the AWSs of the world, is that we offer pre-built content to help you go fast. So for example, a lot of us have had kids, right? And you have kids and you want to build a skyscraper out of Legos. Your choice is you either go buy a big bag of Lego blocks and try to help your kid build that skyscraper from scratch, or you go buy a city kit that's already designed, pre-engineered to help you build a good-looking skyscraper. And most people in the real world, they've got a deadline, right? They got to get something done by Monday or by next month. Building with a pre-built kit that has verified blueprints absolutely takes the risk out of the project. Ultimately, BTP helps companies become nimble, innovate quickly, reduce the risk, eliminate technical debt on their way to simplifying the complexity so that they can deliver business value to their business users very quickly, stop reinventing the wheel, and keep the core clean. A great story that I always like telling is this one with Vestas. Vestas builds more of these electrical generating windmills than anybody else on earth. Their CEO was not a happy person. Years of underinvestment had led to a situation where every time he went to the IT department and asked them to get something done, they would say, sure, no problem, 2 years, or no problem, 3 years. And not a lot of CEOs like that kind of an answer. Their issue was that they were way too paper-based. If the wind blew the construction trailer door open, half the project might be on the floor. Big, expensive mistakes happen in this business. These cranes are huge. If you move that crane to the wrong spot, it's a $12,000 mistake. And of course, there's lots of smaller mistakes as well. On the services side, it wasn't much better. This guy would need a part to fix the windmill. But of course, these things are built in Timbuktu, not in the middle of town. So you'd have to jump in his little minivan, drive 50, 60 miles to connect to a network to order that part, to go back out and do it again. It's kind of like you working on your house on a weekend, going to Home Depot or Lowe's over and over and over. Exact same issue, right?
One more part.
Yeah, they jumped on an airplane. They went to do design thinking at Apple. They flew back to Denmark. They abstracted the legacy core, They went fast with pre-built content, those Lego city kits that I've talked about, right? 6 months later, construction went from all paper to all iOS. Services transformed too. They collapsed 50 legacy apps into six consumer grade iPhone and Android apps, and they absolutely got fast time to value, less risk, and their folks really love to use it. And so I think you wanted to share a little bit about the key idea here, which I think is how do you keep a clean core? But that's really the key issue here is how do you abstract the core from all the innovation on the outside?
Yep. Yeah, Thomas did great work there. And the content, I think, is probably one of the most important parts here. Um, Here, if we look at this slide, some people call it kind of a sunset slide, where everything SAP is building
By the way,
is
I call it a sunrise slide because
sunrise
it's the
slide.
dawn,
It's
the dawn
morning.
of a new day.
Right. So this sunrise slide, and I like sunrise. It's beautiful. It's getting started. It's the beginning of a new day. And it's SAP and partners building their content, their add-ons, their products on BTP, and customers, when they really do need to customize something, they're doing the same thing. And that to me is the most beautiful thing, because when you're going to the capability of keeping things clean and having these apps that you need to take care of, there's so many organizations. This is the biggest key idea. They feel like they're so special, so unique, and so different that nobody's run into it anywhere in the world, except there's more than 50,000 other companies running the SAP ERP product. So the chances that you're really the first are pretty darn low. And that's where this content, these add-ons, these industry cloud solutions, these certified add-ons that are already available to go plug and play and install to fill these gaps, saves so much time and de-risks, right? That's part of how this happened.
Yeah, so what I think is important for people to realize is that SAP is not writing its ERP for any one specific customer. We're writing a capability that works equally well in an airline, in a rail, operator, a oil and gas company, a hospital. We deliver this base functionality, but then the next trick is to finish it out to fit your business.
Absolutely. And that's where, when SAP is building, here's a simplified picture where SAP is building 80% of what the market needs and leaving the other 20% up to customers and partners. There's this kind of 80 to 95% that is typically, you're not the first company to run into this gap. It's available, it's out there. And this is from why we do what we do. I was the customer that was told, don't worry, we've done it before, it's not a problem, by a systems integrator more than a decade ago. And so I set about making sure that our team never has to say the same thing to a customer and make the customer build it all from scratch all over again. So these add-ons that companies like us make for procure to pay, for analytics, for collaboration, for optimization, supply chain optimization, and running tighter procurement, procure to pay, AI automated invoice processing, to go and make sure people don't need to go and build that from scratch, because they don't. And I think that's the biggest key idea.
And more importantly, because it's all built on BTP, it snaps together, right? I mean, the whole idea behind this architecture is that everything snaps together. So when you write a solution for a specific industry and you test it for scalability and everything else, that same solution is going to snap into the next person's landscape, right?
Yep. It's like a puzzle piece. And if you take something that's designed and built completely outside of SAP, and then you try to plug it into SAP, well, you're trying to do a whole bunch of plumbing and hope that you get it all right. Except I've never met plumbing that doesn't leak once in a while. And when it's poorly done, it leaks all over the place, and that leaves a giant mess. So when you've got something that is so tightly designed and built to work inside a SAP, then you don't have integration as a problem. You have installation, and that's more like you install it and go. And that's a key idea right there that can save time, save money, and with a more reliable, more upgradable solution.
Now, Sean, I know why you go to Home Depot so often. You like fixing plumbing, right? So
I love building stuff. Yeah, we fixed a lot of plumbing, Bob.
Yeah, the interesting thing that you said is that a lot of customers think that they have very unique problems, but I have the pleasure of, flying around the country talking to lots of CFOs and CIOs. And it's kind of interesting. I've put together this list. These are really the top 10 things that come up all the time. How do I reduce costs? How do I make better decisions? How do I optimize pricing? How do I predict what my consumer is going to do? So there's a lot of commonality as well, even if you cross different industries. And so when I ask this question, are these on your top 10 goals as well? I find out that it almost, it hits on 7 or 8 of these almost every single time. And so BTP specifically is aiming at these challenges and how we make them better. And it's really through simplification of integration, automation, app dev, AI, data and analytics, all these kind of things matter a lot. So what I'd like to do right now is to just give you a little bit of an update as to what's been going on in each one of these areas and how it helps contribute to solving these problems. The first one, of course, is integration. Everything's got to work well together if you're going to maximize the value of all your investments. Most companies today are looking at how they become more real time. If you haven't had a meeting about advanced enterprise mesh, I'm 100% sure Convergent, you guys can help with this, right? Yeah. It's how do you set up basically a cell phone network that all your data flows across so developers don't have to always do point to point integrations, which is much more difficult. At the same time, we've come out with Edge Integration Cell that helps you retire the old legacy PIPO software that runs on premise and use cloud-based integration suite to do the design, but still route that on-premise traffic until you get fully into the cloud. Our content, which I talked about before, has been growing in leaps and bounds. Last year, we've gone from roughly 2,500 different artifacts of content to over 3,500. So the evolution there is amazing. And if you haven't signed for a rise yet in your ERP transformation, there's a great promotion around Integration Suite that is coming out for this year. Actually, I think it's for the first 3 quarters this year, but definitely ask your sales executive about that and how you can take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And again, that pre-built content, it's companies like ours that are, if it's BTP meets procure to pay, that's our jam. And you imagine you're the first one to do it. You'd imagine the first person to go need an integration from X to Y. Chances are somebody like us has already run into it in that procure to pay space. It's best to reuse and take something off the shelf instead of try to build it for the first time.
Yeah, if I had to talk about the key idea, I think, behind integration, until you achieve great integration, you're going to wind up creating more complexity and it's going to be harder to upgrade all your software because all the moving parts that exist continue to move. Everything continues to evolve. So you have to take a step back, create a great enterprise mesh, use API management wherever you possibly can, publish that. And now all of a sudden, you're not spending all your time retesting and retesting and retesting. Automation wise, this is an area I think a lot of folks, especially finance, how do we get to a more automated ERP is a big question for everybody, right? We've expanded our partnership this year, and I think there's some more announcements coming around Sapphire time. But our partnership with UiPath is getting stronger by the day. The one thing that SAP is truly focused on is how do you make it work across an entire process like procure to pay? It's not a matter of just doing screen scraping in one little area. It's how do you make all that work together? And ultimately, you want to put speedometers on your processes and make sure that things are going well. That's exactly what Signavio does. And so if you want a discussion around process optimization, Sean, I'm sure you can help folks with that, right?
Yep. Been there, done that many, many times. Love to do it.
I think one of the coolest things about your company is that you guys actually run SAP ERP yourselves, right?
Yeah. This is probably one of the things we need to share a little more about is we were one of the first to go live on S4 back in 2015. And we eat our own cooking with this stuff. So when somebody says we're too small to run SAP, I kind of go, really? Are you sure about that? Because it usually means you're trying to use it the wrong way. And I'll tell you, if I hold a shovel upside down, it hurts when I try to push it into the ground.
Well, we just discovered that you guys are pretty brave too, but you don't have to be brave now. S4 has been out for 6, 7, 8 years at this point, and it's running some of the largest enterprises on earth. One of the things that I think we've already hit on a little bit, but it's important to think about. The software itself almost always needs a little bit of extension to give you a nice custom fit. And what we're really working hard on this year is leveraging AI to speed up time to value. Not only does AI matter, so does low code, no code. It's really hitting its stride. We purchased AppGyver as a company a few years ago. And now I'm seeing that pop up in almost every one of our applications. And if you've seen any of the demos on Joule, it's incredible. It looks like a chatbot, but it's got all the AI stuff behind the scenes. And so now application developers, Convergent, right? You guys can actually leverage AI to go faster and deliver faster time to value for your customers.
I love it. When solutions like our AP automation tool that's powered by AI can tackle invoices that are 5,000 lines long, spread across 2 different attachments that came in on an email, and process them flawlessly, you know that that kind of capability took massive investment to go organize, design, build, and everything else. And when you can take something like that and just buy it off the shelf and bring it into your business quickly, that's what we're talking about. That's the key idea.
Yeah, what's kind of funny is everybody's talking about how, oh my goodness, AI is creating historically inaccurate pictures. I mean, that makes for great headlines in the USA Today or whatever. But what they're not talking about is what's probably the most important. How do you take a company, not add a lot of headcount, and process twice as much business? It's entirely possible the way we're approaching business AI with SAP. Speaking of AI, we're all in. We spent over $1 billion last year on external investments toward our foundational models. We're investing internally. We're retraining over 50,000 people to include Gen AI with all our products. Ultimately, the one thing that SAP believes more than anything else is that you got to combine a model that understands your business processes with customer data that stays private and doesn't get out into the real world. I've never met a customer that wants their data to get out to the large language models, but then take advantage of the large language models to make it a very effective interface where we can have a conversation with the system. The best way I like to think about this is, imagine that a large language model is kind of like a brilliant English professor in college. She might be great at conversation. She might even be pretty good at telling jokes, but she has no idea if widget X, 123 is going to get to Seattle by tomorrow because she was trained 2 years ago. She has no short-term memory at all and has no idea about how your business process works. So you have to combine the different AI to make it all work together. The most important part to remember is that your data better be of great quality or you're not going to get great AI. I mean, bad data equals bad AI. So lots of projects, I think, exist in many companies on how do we make our data better so that way when we try to take advantage of AI, it absolutely works.
100%. Clean data gives you good stuff in, good stuff out.
You guys have had quite a few projects around DataSphere, right?
Yeah. And what I love about that is there's a couple of tools that are off the SAP technology stack that have been used in the past to go and extract data out of some of the Intelligence Band or Ariba solutions or Fieldglass. And that's starting to come onto BTP. And I know our extractor is gaining a whole pile of traction. And that's super exciting because that makes getting all of that data across multiple different sources into one unified view of all of the spend information on DataSphere. That's a bit of a, call it a new idea or an idea reborn. So the key idea is if you've been having trouble getting information out of multiple different systems that have spend data, and you want to have a whole package, a whole pile of pre-built analytics, dashboards, and reports, so you don't have to start from scratch, but you could take something off the shelf and start to tune it, let's go. Because nobody has time to start from scratch and imagine what they want their supply chain and procurement and lead time reporting to be. So let's get it off the shelf. Let's start and then tune it a bit and watch how fast you can get value. Because that time to value, nobody has time for the 2-year, $10 million project just to get better spend reporting. But they do have something that they can do in a month or two and go and bring that data together and start with some pre-built reports and analytics around it. That, I think, is a key idea. Because the containers of the past used to be, it was a 2-year, $10 million thing. And now you can do it in a few months and start piloting and then adding and tuning and tweaking. Way different time of value.
I absolutely think these two are related, right? We just talked about AI and how it relies on data, but the data itself, how do you make it easier to work with? And I think you hit that key element there. The key idea around data is that you've got to create a data fabric that works across your enterprise, but then you've got to make it easily usable by all your business users. That's where Just Ask comes in. It really helps with user productivity. Sean, I'm sure your company's more than happy to do a demo on Just Ask and how it might apply to people's business. The cool part is that SAC, which is what all this is based upon, SAP Analytics Cloud, is actually rising in all the ratings agencies as well, because we're combining BI with the planning and analytics that go around planning, right? So now how do I make sure that I'm using the right resourcing for a specific thing? It's all related, and people are finally realizing that if you create this fabric behind the scenes, then all of a sudden the analytics just take shape. The last area, and that's all these areas combined, right? But how do you make financial planning better? And I think it's you gotta embrace the people that are using it in a way they want to be embraced, right? We want to make it simple to use, but we don't want to eliminate the capabilities that are behind the scenes. So like new features like the enhanced data analyzer. This is really a feature that's designed to people that are very comfortable being Excel power users, right? It's kind of like pivot tables with guardrails. It absolutely makes ad hoc exploration simple. At the same time, we're empowering business users to basically do the work of data scientists. They can spot trends in the data without having to write very specific queries to find those. And lastly, we're making data entry easier than ever, because as a planner, you have to get all this input from all your business users, right? And so how do you get those in the way that the business user wants to do it? So I would say the key idea here is simplification, but with all the things that a power user would want as well. And Sean, I don't know if there's anything you'd love to add to that, but I might have jumped a little ahead on that.
Well, I think that's the nature of it, right? Beautifully simple means it is simple, simplified, not oversimplified, right? That's probably the greatest risk in a lot of these sort of value driver tree simulation capabilities, is it is so oversimplified, it's no longer real or relevant. And
Yeah.
that's where the rubber hits the road in making that real. So yeah, Bob, thank you.
Yeah. So full circle, when you start with the problems that everybody tells me that they have, right? You quickly realize that there's always going to be a custom fit aspect to each one of these to fit your business. And that's how BTP takes standard ERP and makes it fit the way you need it to fit without painting yourself into a corner. I think this idea of not painting yourself into a corner with lots of customizations that ultimately slow you down is a big component of this. And
Yeah.
so ultimately, I think that's the key message here. Use BTP to get a bespoke fit, take advantage of all these evolutions that are happening so quickly. I think is crucially important. Sean, how do they get in touch with you if they want to engage in any of these areas more?
Yeah, appreciate it, Bob. I'm obviously easy to find on LinkedIn, and our team, if you need to email us, hello@convergentis.com. And Bob, grateful for your time today, sharing the news and getting together, share some of these key ideas. I know that's going to serve a lot of people, for everybody that kind of thought they knew what was going on, or maybe they knew it 3 years ago, and that was true years ago, and it's not true today. And getting some people caught up. So grateful for
Yeah,
your time and partnership. Thanks, Bob.
awesome. Have a wonderful day, Sean.
Thanks, you too. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Bye bye.